Hi, my name is Ryan Meyer, and today we're going to talk about getting started with USRP and LabVIEW and some of the other resources available to you to help get you started with your first USRP application. To begin, we'll make sure that we have the appropriate drivers installed and where to find them on our website. We'll then go into where to find the USRP function calls and examples within the LabVIEW programming environment. From there, we'll talk about the help documentation and how we can utilize it to learn more about the USRP functions and the API itself. And then we'll also use the help documentation to go over a basic design flow of a receiving and transmitting application. And then to wrap things up with this video, we'll run two shipping examples to do a basic loopback test and to then verify the functionality of our hardware. So to get started, we're going to go to the National Instruments website, which is just ni.com, and we can search for the USRP driver by searching USRP up in the top right here. We'll hit enter and it'll be directed to the search results page, and the first result is the NI-USRP download. Alternatively, if this is not the first result, we can select downloads on this separate filter, and then we can select the USRP download page. So on this page, we can see all of the different versions that are available to be downloaded onto your machine. For new users, we would recommend using the latest and greatest version. In this case, that's 19.1. And another important consideration to make is that if we haven't installed LabVIEW first, we want to make sure that LabVIEW is installed before installing any drivers. And so when we're ready to install NI-USRP, we will simply select the download link. It may ask you to log in to your account at this point, and then we will run the exe that is downloaded and continue the steps as shown on the screens there. So now that we have the NI-USRP driver installed on our machine, let's take a look in LabVIEW to see where we can find the palette for our USRP API. And so if we right click on our block diagram, we will actually navigate to the instrument IO section. We'll go into instrument drivers, and then we'll see in the bottom left we have NI-USRP and USRP Rio. So for the sake of this video, we'll talk mostly about NI-USRP. And so in this subpalette, we can see that we have 6 options available to us. We have RX, our TX functions, a property node, our synchronization functions, our utility functions, and then we have all of our examples. And it's important to note that these examples are not located in the example finder like you may see for some of our other hardware. And so if you're trying to find these, make sure you're looking in the actual USRP palette itself. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we can navigate to the help documentation within LabVIEW to get a better idea about how we can utilize the NI-USRP API. So if I click on the help as shown at the top of your screen, we can go to NI-USRP help, which will open up the following window. And on the left side of the screen here, we can expand this list of content till we see the NI-USRP LabVIEW reference. And then from there, we'll see that there is a NI-USRP VIs, which should look familiar as it is all of the options available to us within the NI-USRP palette, except for the examples. And so if I wanted to learn a little bit more about the RX subpalette, I can expand this list, and let's select the NI-USRP Open RX session. And from here, we can see that this specific VI will open a receive session to the device we specify. It'll give me a list of the different input parameters and the outputs of this VI. So once we've, maybe clicked through a couple of different VIs here and feel like we have a solid understanding about what some of these VIs may be doing, maybe we want to take a look at how we can use all of these in a simple application and how do these things kind of connect together. And so if we click on the NI-USRP instrument driver programming flow content as listed here, we can see that we have 2 basic examples listed. So the first one here is an example showing how we can transmit signals, and the bottom one here is how we can receive signals. And if you've used NI hardware in the past, this may look familiar as it follows the classic open, configure, read or write, and close programming flow. So once we feel comfortable with the various API functions available along with the basic programming flow, let's talk about the examples within the USRP subpalette here. So I'll pull it back up and I'll pin it so we can take a look at it. You'll see in the top left here we have modulation toolkit examples, which will demodulate or modulate the signals we are either sending or receiving from our USRP. As shown in the help documentation, which can be easily pulled up by pressing Control H, which is context help. I would definitely recommend using this when browsing through the example folder, to get a better idea of what the example will actually do for you. So this example here will require the modulation toolkit, which is a separate download on our website. You can find this similar to how we located the USRP driver a little bit earlier on in our video here. So for this video here, let's do a simple loopback test to make sure that we are able to transmit and receive data on our USRP. And so two examples I want to run here. We'll do the spectral monitoring VI, since this will allow me to receive signals. And then let's do a transmit VI. So let's look for a continuous transmit here, and we'll plop that down. And then we will open up both of these VIs. We are going to start by taking a look at the spectral monitoring VI. You can see here it goes through the classic. We'll open our device reference. We'll use the configure VIs to do some basic configurations. And then we are going to start fetching our data before closing the reference out. And since there's a little bit more involved here to what we saw in the previous programming flow to do our spectral monitoring. So in this case here, I want to make sure that I have the appropriate channel enabled for receiving my signal. I actually have my antenna hooked up to RF1, RX2, so I'm going to change this constant here to 1, and then I'm going to change this to RX2. Additionally, I want to make sure I have the appropriate device name selected, and so I can find the device name of my USRP by pulling up the NI-USRP configuration utility. And so in this case here, we are using a NI-2901. So I will enter that in as seen here. I'm going to set my IQ rate to, let's do 5 megs. And then we are going to center it at, let's say, 2 gigs. And so we can just start acquiring just like that. It'll update in a second here, so that's going. And then let's add a signal to actually be shown for our loopback test here. So I'll open up our transmit VI. I'll bring that over to the right side here. And then we're going to enter in the exact same device name as we did before. We'll set our IQ rate at 1 meg, and then we'll set the carrier rate to, let's do 1.999 gigs. So we'll have something just offset over here from our LO. And then I want to make sure that the transmit antenna is set appropriately and everything should look good here. So we'll start running it, and we can see that we have a tiny spike over on the left side of our receive spectrum. I have no antenna hooked up to my transmit VS, that's why I have such a low value here, but we can clearly see that we are sending and receiving something from our USRP. So if I stop the transmission again, we can see that our signal goes away, and maybe we'll move it over to 2.001 gigs to move it over to the right of our spectrum now. And so the tools mentioned in this video are a fantastic reference for USRP developers of all skill levels, and so by taking advantage of these features, you'll be off to a real strong start in your first USRP project. Would definitely recommend using the examples as a starting point and then building off of those to meet your specific application needs. So, thanks for watching.